English file, intermediate level, grammar page 4A, page 138. So we're going to discuss 4A grammar today, and that is about how to use have to, the difference between have to, must, and should. Okay, so as you can see, so let's try to divide this explanation page into sections. So the first section is about have to and must, right? As you can see, it's like a big part. And then don't have to and mustn't, the difference between don't have to and mustn't. And then the last section is about should and shouldn't plus infinitive. Okay, let's get started. So have to and must is quite confusing for many students. You know, my students, they ask all the time, like, what is the difference between have to and must? And they have got some little bit misleading information as well from early studies at school. So a lot of guys, they say must is stronger than have to. I mean, they're not very different, but we have to make a clear difference between them. In speaking, so I have to say that in speaking, it doesn't really matter actually. You can interchange them. You can say have to or must. But if you really want to know the difference, from my point of view, I would say have to is much stronger than a must, because have to, we use it when we talk about something is important and it is not your opinion. Have to is more common for general external obligation. It's something, it's a rule or it's a law. Yeah, it's not your opinion. It's not someone's opinion. Because something is rule or regulation or law, so we are obligated to do that thing. We are obligated. It is an obligation. It is important. But must is our opinion. It is like strong opinion. It is necessary. Something is necessary. Something is important. And it is my opinion. It is not based on rule or obligation, rule or regulation or a law. So, as you can see, we got explanation. Have to and must are normally used to talk about obligation. That's fine. Or something that is necessary to do. Now, have to and must have a very similar meaning. And you can usually use either form. As I said in speaking, you can interchange them. But if you want to know the real difference between them, have to we use for, external obligations. It's not something relating to only you. Yeah. Must is more common for specific one occasion or personal obligations. Now we're going to compare them. Now comparing here, right? I have to wear a shirt and tie at work. You see, this is not the person's opinion. It is a rule. It's a rule. It's a company rule. The rule of a company. So you have to obey that. You have, because before taking this job, you signed a contract saying that you're gonna abide by the rules of the company. So you have to. It is something you are obligated to do. It's not your opinion. But when you say I must buy a new shirt, this one is too old now. So it's you are thinking, you are personally thinking that it is necessary now to buy a new shirt, because in your opinion, your shirt is too old. So you are in need of a new shirt. So because you are giving this opinion for yourself, because it's not a rule. No one would put regulation or rule about buying a shirt. So because it is my own decision. Okay. So must we use for personal necessities, personal opinions about something, necessary. But have to we use for general rules and regulations and laws. Examples here. You have to switch off your phone during the takeoff and landing. So when you are on the plane, you have to follow the rules. There are certain rules during the takeoff and landing. You have to, turn off your devices. It is have to, it's a rule. You must be on time tomorrow because there is a test. So someone is giving his or her personal opinion. Now, number 2, we can also use have to and must for strong recommendations. When you want to recommend something, we can use have to and must. I love the lure. You have to go when you are in Paris. You have to, like, I recommend you, or you must see this film. You must see this film. It's amazing. So that is a strong recommendation. Number 3, point number 3, right? This is the example, and that's the point. Have to is a normal verb. No, so we have to treat have to as a normal verb, like go, eat, play, stay. So that means we can use have to in all tenses and forms. So present simple, past simple, present perfect. Yeah. Also in gerund and infinitive forms. Okay. Where is the example for that? Number 3, yeah, I had to, past simple, I had to wear a uniform at my primary school. I hate having to get up. That is a gerund form. I hate having to get up early. Do you have to? That's a question. So we're present simple, we're using do. Do you have to work on Saturdays? Okay, so this is have to. So when I want to make present simple negative, I don't have to do it. If I want to make question, do you have to do it, or do I have to do it? What about must? No, must is a modal verb. And as we know, modal verbs, when I want to make question and negative with them, we're not going to get help from do or does or did. We're going to use modal verbs themselves. So it only exists in the present time. So must, you mustn't do that. Or question is, must I switch off my phone off now? Okay, guys. Now we're moving to the negative of these two words, have to and must. So in positive, have to and must we've understood. But when it's in negative, the situation totally changes into a different direction. What do I mean by that is this. Have to, when it's negative, the meaning is it is optional. It is up to someone. It is up to, like, you don't have to pay. So it's up to you. It's not obligatory. Yeah, it is not necessary. It is optional. So when I say you have to, it is a rule. It is a law. You have to obey that. It's not your opinion. It's something that you have to do it. There's no other way. But when I say you don't have to, it is optional, right? So you don't have to pay, right? You don't have to pay. This museum is free. Or you don't have to go to the party if you don't want to. It's really up to you. It's optional. Or like there is no need for that. But what about mustn't? So when I say mustn't, now it becomes rule. We use mustn't for prohibited. Something is prohibited by rules and regulations. So in positive structure, when I say must, it is a personal opinion. Something is necessary because of my personal thinking. But when I say mustn't, now it is not your personal opinion anymore. So when I say you mustn't park here, it means you are not allowed to park here. It is a rule. So it is a rule not to do something. You mustn't eat that cake. It's for the party. We're keeping it for the party. So you mustn't eat. You're not allowed to eat. That is the meaning of mustn't. So it's prohibited. You are not allowed. Okay. So again, don't have to and mustn't are completely different, guys. Comparing, you don't have to drive. We can get a train. It's optional. You can drive if you want to, but it's not really necessary. It's not obligatory at all. Yeah. But when I say you mustn't drive along the street, you're not allowed. You don't have option. You're not allowed to do that. Don't do that. It is prohibited by law or rules. Okay. So we can often use can't or not allowed instead of mustn't. So like you can't do that. You mustn't park here. You can't park here. You're not allowed to park here. They are the same meaning, guys. All right. Now we're moving to should and shouldn't. So should, it's advice. We use should and shouldn't for advice, right? We use should to give advice or my opinion. Weak opinion, not strong opinion. If I want to give strong opinion, you must. Huh? But if it's like normal advice, normal opinion, we say should. So like not as strong as must and have to. So should, your opinion, but it's not as strong as must and have to. Right? Should is a modal verb. So negative is shouldn't, or should I, should you, if I want to make question. Obviously, I need to put should before the subject, right? The only forms are should and shouldn't. You should take warm clothes with you to Dublin, or it might be cold at night. You shouldn't drink so much coffee. It isn't good for you. So I'm giving advice, yeah, kind of advice. You shouldn't do that. Now, instead of should, we can also use ought to. This is another thing that we have to, remember. Ought to, it means should, guys. It's equal to should. And obviously, after them, we must use infinitive, right? Plus infinitive. So instead of should, and negative, ought not to. Ought not to, it means shouldn't. You shouldn't drive, you ought not to drive. You should drive, you ought to drive. Example, you ought to take warm clothes with you to Dublin. Like you should take warm clothes to Dublin. As you can see, should and ought to, right? Negative, you ought not to drink. You shouldn't drink. Can you see that? So the same meaning. Last thing, number 2, we use should to give an opinion, to say if we think something is right or something is wrong thing to do. I think government should do that. I think government shouldn't do that. I don't think government should do that. Okay, so this is for opinion. So that's it. Now we've just covered this topic. Now we're going to do some exercise here, A and B. We're going to do some of them because the rest of it we're going to do in the class. So A exercise, we need to circle the correct form. Tick. So this is a tick if both are possible. So in some cases, both of them are possible. We can use it. So we're going to tick it at that time. So number 1, do you think we ought to text dad to tell him we'll be late? Well, we've just discussed should and ought to, same thing. So I'm just going to tick it. Both correct. We should text. We ought to text. Correct. Number 2, you don't have to. You mustn't. So obviously they're totally different now. You don't have to and mustn't. They're totally different things, different meaning. So you don't have to send text messages when you are driving. Like it's up to you. If you want, you can text. Or you mustn't send text messages when you are driving. So I think mustn't is better because, it is dangerous to send text messages while driving. So it's a rule. You mustn't send text messages. So we're not going to do that. So we're going to scratch it. Mustn't is the right answer. The rest we're going to discuss in the class. B, complete with the correct form of the verb in brackets. Right? Correct form of the verb in brackets. Obviously, we got brackets here. You have to, or she, and have to here, not have to, negative. We should not have to, yeah? So we're going to do question number 1 and maybe 2, 1 and 2. Let's do question 1 and 2 here. So that's question, guys. That's question, because you can see the question mark, right? Question mark. And you have to. And a lot of homework when you were. So when you were, this is a past simple. When you were at school, there's a past simple. Now, if I want to make question or past simple, obviously I'm going to use did, right? So let's do that. Now I'm going to did, and then the subject, you. Did you have to do? You got it? Did you have to do a lot of homework when you were at school? Okay. Right, maybe we can write in a better way here. Just give me a second, guys. So did you? Okay, so did you have to do? Did you have to? Did you have to do a lot of homework when you were at school? Now, number 2, I and must. I and must. Take my tablet out of my bag at security. Question. Question. If I want to make question, must is a modal verb, so I'm going to write must I. Must I take my tablet out of my bag at security? And that's it. The rest of them, as I said, we're going to discuss in the class. So thanks for your time. I hope to see you in next videos. Take care. Bye-bye.